What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Knife Box channel. We are now back at the tabletop portion of this video. So today we're going to be talking about the Spyderco Pochi. This is actually designed by a Japanese custom knife maker who's known for making a lot of, I believe, animal type knives is kind of like the thing he's kind of known for, but he also makes regular folding knives. I've seen Persian style blade folders and all kinds of cool stuff. So he's kind of an interesting character to check out because his design cues are very different, and he's kind of got his own thing that's brought him to the spotlight, if you will. So the Spyderco Pochi, if you haven't figured it out, is based on a dog. I believe, again, I think he does other animals. I didn't really research that very deeply. But then if that's not obvious enough to you, he put a little dog paw cutout here on the clip, which I think is kind of cool. Also, this even kind of poses as like a tail, I guess, or I don't know. It just, the clip is kind of cool, just the way it is. As far as the overall design of it, it's there. It matches kind of well. The other cool thing too is I do like the blue finish on the titanium. This is a really nice deep stonewash blue. Kind of reminds me of like the Knife Joy exclusive blue, and I really dig that color. So that's kind of cool. So next, moving on to the let's start off with the blade, actually. Alright, so what we got up front here is we got a beautiful little clip point. It's actually quite functional. You can see it's got a lot of blade and a lot of belly for the size of the knife. And the upsweep and pretty much all belly will give you a lot of nice cutting power, so I like that. You also got a really nice pronounced tip here, which is perfect, you know, for those kind of little poking type tasks. So that's really nice too. Also up front here, there's the nomenclature of the Taiwan Taichung factory, and you got your maker's mark right here on the end. And it's also a hollow grind kind of design right here, and you can see it's kind of a saber grind just because of the size of the blade, and it is made in CPM S45VN, which is kind of a newer steel or an upgrade to the S35VN. I haven't really researched this steel much yet, but I know I've always been very satisfied with S35VN overall. On this side, you can see the steel nomenclature in Spyderco, right? So as far as the Taiwan Taichung plant, you know, a lot of their older stuff used to have a lot of sharp edges. I can tell you right now, this one, they have really nailed this down. There is no sharp corners, just the blade is the only sharp part, and this really nice little acute tip right here on the clip point. That's another thing to mention. The clip point is such a cool idea. It's such a functional blade, and I really dig that. So as far as the deployment methods, you can see it's got a flipper and it's got also a Spidey hole. So as far as the way that these guys open, the flipper, I think, is a terrible thing. It should not be there. I think it would have been fine with just this right here as far as a deployment method. The flipper is kind of one of those things. If you use it in the traditional sense, you can feel the flipper kind of rubbing you right there, or even possibly maybe grabbing a piece of flesh. And as far as the flipper being hanging down so low, without wrist flick, that's pretty much what I've been able to get out of it. With even a little bit of wrist flick, you could see it could be a challenge. So with the right amount of grip, though, it does work, and it has actually a nice little crisp sound as well. So kind of cool. That's the deployment method and the blade up front. Moving on to the frame here. This frame is actually quite nice. It's nicely finished. It's got kind of like this dark finish on it right here. I do believe this is titanium. And you can also see these little scalloped areas right here, which is kind of cool for a little added traction, I think. So that's kind of there right there. Kind of a nice little added styling cue, makes it look a little less boring. And you can see right here, you got just a little relief cut, which I'm not quite sure why that is there. Maybe for styling, or I don't know. Moving on to the actual shape of the frame, this thing's kind of in between a 2 to 3 finger knife. If anything, you know, you got this loose little tail right here, which you can, I guess, kind of use, but I don't know, maybe it's my hands kind of like in a weird spot. I think I'm almost more comfortable just kind of like jamming 3 fingers in there, and then I get a nice positive grip, especially up here is where you really get the retention. And you still got the hook here, so you know, if you pull back or you do a draw cut or anything like that, it's going to work out very nicely for you. All right, now on to the closing of the knife. You could see the lock bar here is actually kind of one of those things I was kind of surprised when I looked at it. It's done pretty well. Little knives and, you know, any kind of knife with a small lock bar in general is kind of a difficult thing to accomplish, because the smaller the lock bar or shorter the lock bar, I gotta say, and that'll also depend on the thickness of it, and the relief cut can really affect how stiff it is.
That's what she said.
Michael, please. There he is. Please.
There he is.
Kind of really ruin the whole experience of playing and owning and, you know, enjoying your knife. So, I can Spidey flick this thing. I think I'm going to cut myself on film trying to do this, but let's try it. Nah. No. Come on, come on, come on. Oh!
Swing, swing, tentpole.
Spidey flick. All right, there's your third method of deployment. All right, anyways, so you got this little tail right here, which is honestly, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think it's just there for, you know, the little dog look and aesthetics of the whole thing. Not much function. I guess you could kind of extend it and use it on your pinky, but it's so small, like there's really nothing to hold on to there. So I kind of prefer the tail down myself. And then, you know, if you're going to stand it up on your table, then you put the little tail up to take your little photos of your knife. So kind of cool. I really dig the color of the blue anodizing on these little titanium pieces. And then the color of the scale looks good too. Another thing that I kind of found interesting, the hardware is a T8 and a T6, but what I found interesting also is that they put really actually quite nice and thick bronze washers on this knife. You can kind of see them right there. And of course, you can't stop there. You got to put them on the tail too, right? Like a little pivot point wasn't enough. Like you had to do the bronze washers as well on the tail. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, it's just a really cool little knife. To be quite honest with you guys, it kind of looks like, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, the Spyderco Pochi. Very, very, very cool. And the name Pochi, if you guys aren't familiar with it, the name came from it's one of those household names in Japan for your pet dog, kind of like we have Spot here in America. So that's where the name kind of came from, since it's supposed to be a little dog. I just really dig it. I like the whole idea of it and everything. This is truly like the knife that I love to hate. But you know, somebody out there is just going to carry one of these every day just for fun, or you know, every once in a while. And even pulling this thing out of the office is kind of funny, you know, even in front of a customer trying to open up a package for them or an envelope over at the dealer. I probably wouldn't be very nervous to you know, kind of use this thing in that way. So the lock bar was definitely really nicely executed for me. You got the relief cut right here. It's actually fairly long considering the size of the knife, and they did a really nice deep relief cut here. In true Taichung Spyderco fashion, you got crazy lockup, kind of like a Sleesh buoy or a Spidey chef, but you got a nice amount of relief cutting right here. So you got very easy access, surprisingly, to the lock bar, and the lock bar is not stiff in any way. It's very easy to open and close. So I do really like that. As a matter of fact, action-wise, it's pretty damn good. You can, you know, you can flick this thing open, but you can also kind of, you know, flick this thing shut. It's pretty good. It's actually really well made. As far as this and the scalloping up here as well, I'm assuming that's just for design cue, or maybe some design for some sort of grip with the knife that I'm not aware of. This thing is kind of versatile in the way you can grip it. As you can see right here with the clip point, I could just rest my thumb and, you know, use it as a small blade in this way. You can just, you know, do the traditional pinch grip. Hell, I don't know, you might even be able to do the reverse grip, right? So anyways, kind of a cool knife. I don't know. I kind of dig the whole idea and concept of it. The only gripe that I have, guys, is that there was so much effort in this little guy, and so much, you know, spending in the materials department, that it ended up being a $200 two-finger knife. And for me, this would have been much more compelling at like $120 price point, or even $140. I mean, keep it all aluminum, do, you know, S30V or even 14C28N, like a Sandvik steel would have been great. Plenty for a little blade like this, right? So I don't know, guys, that would be my only gripe with this knife. It was just overdone and too expensive for me to want to spend money on this little guy. It is really cool. It's well made, don't get me wrong, but when you kind of compare to other stuff in kind of like the similar you know, materials department and such at half the price point, it's kind of hard to swallow that pill for me. Nonetheless, I really like it. I think it's a great idea, and you know, I'm just again, not for me. So I really appreciate Jiro for letting me check this guy out. Just a really amazing guy, become a real good friend of mine that I talk to pretty often. And so thanks, Jiro, for letting me check out this really cool knife that just sparked a really funny conversation. And I'm sure it has for some of you too. So anyways, guys, if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video, or don't like it. I guess both thumbs up or thumbs down works, is what I hear my buddy Stasis say all the time. So either one works. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when new content comes out and about. And I will see you all on the next one.